If there's one thing I am and have been in my life, it's a thinker. What exactly is a thinker? A thinker is a person who always continues to ask the question. A thinker is a person who does not settle on the answer given from authority. A thinker is a person who is discontent with the explanations that are given. A thinker is a person that is always seeking to expand their understanding of the world. A thinker is a functional skeptic. I think that most people don't want to be thinkers. And I think that there are good reasons why they don't want to be thinkers. I actually think that there is a justification for not wanting to be a thinker, because being a thinker is laborious, it's vexing, it's burdensome, because you were always seeing through narratives. You were always pressing against the positive. And this creates tension. This creates a heaviness. It creates a kind of psychological stress. What is it that compels a thinker forward in this sense? What is the motivational factor that causes a thinker to continue down this path? To continue down the path of questioning, subjecting their narrative, the beliefs that they love, that they cherish, the ideas that they find beautiful, to continue to subject these to scrutiny, to refuse to live under the authoritarianism of premises, our propositions, our systems. The motivation that drives this kind of thinking, I think there are many things that drive it, and some of them are deep layers of psychology. But one of the motivations is a thinker genuinely, sincerely wants to know the truth. And they want to know that truth more than they want to be famous, and more than they want to even feel good. They want to know the truth. The motivation is to know what's true, to see what's true. And most of the time, this amounts to seeing through the ideas that we love, or the structures that bring us comfort or even hope. Most of the time, thought breaks through these structures. And from this, we feel sorrow. We feel a melancholy. There really is a burden in comprehending arbitrary systems made by humans that amount to disorder, injustice, and madness. There is a melancholy burden that comes with this. Now, that is not the full story. The world is not only negative. But the question that I am pursuing here is the question of, do you want to be a thinker? Do I want to be a thinker? And if I want to be a thinker, what does that entail? What is required of me if I want to be a thinker? The best I can do is try to explain how I have thought against systems and truths in my life. I don't allow, or I should say, I strive to not allow my impulse structure, my emotions, my desires for belief to drive my thought, to limit my thought, to control my thought, to shatter my thought. Because my motivation and concern, when I am in the right frame, the right mental space as a thinker, is I have a desire and a motivation to know what's true, regardless of my own personal bias. My disposition as a thinker is such, when I approach a system or belief, no matter how much I don't want it to be true, I'm going to try to approach it as objectively as I can and be open to a position that I find reprehensible containing truth within it. Because my concern and my desire is for truth. My desire is not merely to obtain power or psychological validation for myself. My desire is to know the truth. This motivation, you almost would call it a philosophically pure motivation that we are asked to partake of if we want to be thinkers, is what helps to make our thought powerful, because we're not simply allowing our bias, our emotions, to dictate the beliefs that we will cling to, the beliefs that we will hold on to. Instead, we are constantly engaging in questions. And there's a Latin phrase that I constructed to help remind me of this. Ut semper querum. Ut semper querum. To always question. To always question. As a promise to oneself, as a reminder of philosophical integrity. Ut semper querum. To always question. To be open to the shattering, the refutation of the beliefs that you love, the beliefs that we love, to be open to the breaking of these beliefs. This is how I have lived my life as a thinker. This is how I have pursued knowledge in the world. And I've come to interesting spaces because thought is more intricate than this even. These principles alone, without any kind of meta-awareness attached to them, without any kind of transcendence that even knows when not to apply them, with an absoluteness that would actually result in their negation, this is an important consciousness to have within thought. So I end up in spaces where one might realize that the truth is not something that we can live with. This is what a paradox. This is a space I think that deep thought can end up in. The truth is not something we can live with. Now the danger is that the thinker will run back in a non sequitur to a superstition, merely to a belief that the thinker loved. This is what most people do when they deploy their skepticism. They deploy it only to knock down the beliefs they don't like, and they exempt it from the beliefs that they love. This is not fitting for a thinker. This is not fitting for a thinker who wants to be a skilled thinker. So we find ourselves at this place where we might say, here's the truth, but the truth is barren, so we must construct. We must construct. And the highest lesson I think I have learned with the greatest exercise of discipline in thought and the greatest expanse through which my thought has moved is that the whole point of deconstructing is to learn how to more intelligently construct. We are breaking down so that we can more intelligently build up. We are not breaking down just to break down. So if we find ourselves at a place where we are engaged with or met by a kind of truth that we cannot live with, a barren truth per se, then we try to pursue an intelligent narrative that will bring about a qualitative human experience in existence. This is essentially what it means to reach the bottom in thinking, to see through everything. I think the number one thing that has increased the power of my thinking as a thinker has been my ability, my capacity to try to transcend the impulse of my psychology, the lure of my psychological system, the lure of my emotive structure, not the beliefs that I want, but looking to come to grips with what is true, with realities that I find discomforting, with realities that I find unpleasant. This to me is the required and necessary disposition of a good thinker. It is not to start down the path where one is merely trying to defend the beliefs that they like. It is the ability, the objective ability, and that is only in degree, but is still an applicable sentence. The objective ability to pursue truth regardless of one's bias structure or psychology. To pursue it on the basis of reason, and to pursue it on the basis of evidence, and to pursue it at the deepest layer on the basis of conscious humanist values. Because that is where, at the end of the day, the judgment structure leads. If the reason and the evidence essentially break down, you still must pivot to a high order of values, an order of values that have intelligence, that make sense existentially on a broad scale. The ability to examine ideas and beliefs, including the ideas that we love. The ability to overcome the tyranny and the authoritarianism of our self, the self that is constantly trying to get us to affirm the beliefs that we want. To be a great thinker, a high-level thinker, we strive to get beyond this tyranny, the tyranny of the self. the tyranny of the self that wants to validate a set of beliefs that make it feel powerful and that make it feel good. These thinkers are doomed in their thinking because they will stop thinking and stop learning as soon as the desires of their psychology are met, when they feel that power has been obtained, when they feel that comfort has been obtained. They will stop their inquiry and start defending their dogma. To be a good thinker, we need the capacity, we need the meta-awareness to be able to go beyond this. We need the objectivity to be able to approach our beliefs beyond these traps, beyond these pitfalls. At the beginning is the danger of the self. The danger of the self that tries to entrap us in its own authoritarian desires. We are listening to ourselves. We are listening to our intuitions. We are allowing our emotions to drive our belief. And most people never even realize this. And this describes most humans. This impulse structure does not manifest itself by raising its hand or shouting out in the dark and saying, I am your impulse structure. I am determining your belief right now. I am controlling you. That's not how it works. It operates at the level of us feeling that we have the truth, of it creating a rationalization structure which locks us into our desired beliefs. So it is subtle. To be a good thinker, a thinker must be able to recognize this and overcome this psychological structure, this psychological entrenchment of a structure. And from there, from the emancipation from the authoritarianism of the self, the individual must keep on moving forward in this way of freedom and emancipation, pursuing the truth. This is how I have thought in my life. It's how I try to continue to think. And I forget, being a good thinker is in large part a matter of integrity in thought, integrity to self, integrity to truth, the desire to emancipate from the self, the desire to know the truth.